Hello and welcome back to another Django tutorial. My name's Tom with MasterCode Online. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. In today's tutorial, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Settings.py file. And this is probably the most important file of your Django project. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and configure this file to allow us to run our project on Heroku and locally. We're going to make some changes to this file, and if you guys don't follow along properly, you'll be hitting me up saying, hey Tom, it doesn't work. Well, the answers are going to be right here in this tutorial, so please save us all some time and make sure you put these settings in the proper location and configure it correctly. Alright, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do is open up our project in our text editor. I already have mine open here, and we're going to go ahead and open the settings.py file, which is in your CMS right here. Alright, now as we go through this document, I'm going to do some explaining to you what's going on in this document, because it's very important. This document is extremely important. So I want you guys to understand it. I want you guys to be comfortable with it. I want you guys to, be able to read it and understand it, because it makes your life of programming a Django application so much easier if you're not intimidated by this document. All right. First thing we're going to look at is this comment here provided by the Django developers. Basically, it just gives us the version that we're working with, and it also gives us two very important links to very important documentation. If you guys have the time, please go and read these two documents. They will shed a lot of light on the Django project and what's going on in the settings.py file. A lot more light than I can sit here and explain to you guys in the next 15 minutes or so. So please take the time and read that. All right, next thing we come to is the import OS statement. And what the import OS statement or module is a module that comes over from Python that allows us to work with operating systems. All right. The main reason why we have this in the settings.py file is for working with paths. And the paths that we're working with, these paths we need to have code that can work locally and also work on a server. So one way to do that is to use the import or use the OS module, where it's able to bounce around from operating system to operating system and find its location. All right, so that's what's going on here. If you look at base dir, we got OS path dir name. All right, so it's going to return the directory name, OS path dir name, return the next directory name, and then OS path absolute name, file name. All right. So basically, it's returning us our path, and we'll look exactly at what that path is in a few seconds here. All right, so that's why we have the import OS module here. With that being said, let's go ahead and import something new. Since we can get the path to some directories and stuff, we're also going to need to be able to get the path to our database. And one way to do that is by importing DJ database underscore URL. Alright. You notice I got a little red squiggly line here on PyCharm. That means it's not installed on my system. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my terminal and do pip install DJ underscore database underscore URL. Alright. So this package comes over from Django, and basically what it does is it helps us hook in the path from our application, our Django project, to our database. We're going to use a Postgres database, so it allows us to provide the path to the connection to the database when this is hooked up to Heroku. All right, so that's why we need this package. I don't know why I just copied that. Anyway, it's getting late. All right, so there we go. The red line went away because it was imported, and we'll use this shortly in our code. All right, back down to the base dir. I already explained what this is. It's the path to our main base directory, which is this one right here. I got highlighted here. So the second CMS directory in. All right, that's our base dir. And just to prove that, we'll go ahead and do print base dir. And this little simple print statement here is actually showing you guys a few things. First off, how to debug a Settings.py file. If you run into an issue where your paths aren't correct or something's being returned funky, throw a print statement in there and go over to your terminal and run python manage.py run server. All right. And what's going to happen? It's going to print my path. Notice I got users, admin, desktop, Django, CMS. All right. So there's our Django directory that we created beforehand. Here's our CMS directory for our virtual environment. And then here's our base directory for our actual CMS Django application. All right. So that's what's going on. Yours may differ from like here back or here back. That's okay. As long as you got Django, CMS, you're golden. All right. So that's one way we can troubleshoot things in Django. Is using a print statement. So I'm going to go ahead and comment that out. And we'll see base dir. The reason why this is set is so we can find the base directory, right? So we can call this anywhere in our project and say, hey, go here and then go somewhere else to find our path, all right? So it's one easy feature to use there. All right, moving on. Secret key. Our secret key. It should be top secret. You shouldn't share it with anybody, even though I'm showing it to you, because I won't use this site live in production. So you guys can hack away at it if you like. But anyhow, this should be kept secret. Should be unique. This is created when we ran Django admin start project. All right. If for some reason you do let this key out by accident, go ahead and change it to something unique, something that's not easily figured out. Notice all the different characters in uppercase and lowercase and everything else going on in there. It's important that this stays secret. So if you go and read Django's documentation, it says, you know, keep this unique and keep it secret. So the reason why we have this is for cryptographic signing. All right. Basically, this secret key, if it doesn't match when it's sent over, then it's showing that someone has hacked into your system. So it's going to go ahead and crash the site. If we remove this, Django will not run. So make sure that you keep it secret. All right. That's enough said on that. Next thing we come to is the debug. Now, Django has an awesome debug feature. It provides us with all types of information, from headers to paths to request and response information. It gives us so much information, and we'll see this in action, I'm sure, quite often while we go through this programming tutorial series. So with that being said, we'll kind of leave the debug to the point where I have to show you guys how to debug something. That way I can show you exactly what's going on. But for now, let's go ahead and convert this to false. All right? Because when you upload your site to Heroku or any production server, you do not want to have debug on, because there's a lot of information you shouldn't be sharing with the general public in there. So we want to set debug to false. Now, when I set debug to false, Django is going to go ahead and say, hey, the next one needs to have a value put in it. The loud host, all right? Loud host, when we set debug to false, now gets turned on, and it says, hey, we need to put a URL in there that's allowed. And what the loud host does is a security feature that protects against HTTP host header attacks, all right? So we would have to put something in there like this, mastercode.online, or like that, online. And this would allow my site to be shown on mastercode.online. All right. For now, we're going to leave this empty, because when we go to upload this to Heroku, we're going to create a URL on Heroku, and we don't know what that is yet. So we're just going to leave it empty, and you won't be able to run your site locally, but I will fix that in the next tutorial for you. All right, next thing we come on to is installed applications. All these applications in this list were installed by Django by default, and when we create new applications, we will have to put them into this list. All right. For now, we're just going to leave this empty, but you can notice there's some important ones in here: admin, authentication, content type, sessions, messages, and static files. These are all important, and we will use them all. The next list that we come across is middleware. And middleware handles the request and response. It's actually in between the request and response, and there are little programs that help our request and response work properly. For now, we're just going to leave these as is, and these are all default from Django. We will take a look at creating a middleware in this tutorial series. That's one of the things I have planned for you guys, so we'll take a look at that. Next thing we come across is the root URL conf global variable. And what this does is provides a path to our main urls.py file. We will take a look at this file when we get to working with URLs, but for now just understand that this is the main one and this is how it's indicated. Next thing we come to is our templates list, which contains a dictionary. And basically the templates in Django are pretty cool. They got their own templating language. They got all types of stuff going on in there. And we'll look at all this as we go through and dig deeper into it. We'll also set up our own context processors. But for now, the most important part is we need to add a directory. So we're going to go ahead and put a string in here and then put templates as our directory name. We will add the directory in the next tutorial, but for now we're just going to go ahead and put it in there. Alright, yeah, I think that's all we can say there. Next thing we come to is the WSGI, or Web Server Gateway Interface application. This is how we run our Django project locally when we run python manage.py run server. So basically, this is the application, how it runs, all right? We'll take a look at this shortly. So I don't want to beat it up too much. There's not really much that you need to know about it from a development standpoint, but understanding how it works will help you guys along the way. So we'll take a look at that eventually. All right. Next thing is databases. All right. This is where we brought the DJ database URL into play. So we need to add that in here. All right. Now this settings.py file that we're setting up currently is for our Heroku settings, not our local settings. So what we're going to do is set up our database for this. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and take out this dictionary right here. Take that out, and we're going to go ahead and put dj database.url_config just like that. All right. We can put a comma here. All right, and basically what this is doing is configuring our database to hook into a Postgres database on Heroku. All right, so that's all this is doing right here. And then in the next tutorial, we're going to set up our local database. So, like I said, this is for Heroku and Postgres. All right, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our static file storages. So we're going to create a new global variable here, and this is going to be something called white noise. And white noise didn't exist a couple versions back, and we had to do a lot of things to get static files to work properly. But once white noise was developed, it made working with static files in Django so much easier. So what we're going to do is open our terminal, kill our server if you have your server running, and clear this. And we're going to go ahead and hold on. Let's go ahead and put the path in first. We'll do white noise, because if I try to put it in there while with an empty variable, I would have got an error. So what I'm doing here is putting in the path for our white noise storage, compress manifest, static file storage. Is it file? Yeah, file storage. There we go. All right, so go ahead and add this in right here. Static file storage, and then white noise storage, compress manifest static files storage, like that. All right. All right. And then back into our terminal and do pip install white noise. And we'll go ahead and install it. There we go. Successfully installed. All right. And like I said, what white noise does is it handles our static files for us in storing it on the server. All right. If we didn't have this ability, we would have to actually upload them to a server like Amazon Web Servers or something like that to hold our static files. But now that white noise came along, it allows us to do this a little bit more robust. All right. Next thing we come to is the auth password validators. We're going to leave this as is, but this has to do with our authentication and validating the password. If you look, we got minimum length validator, we got the common password validator, numeric password validator. These are just small little programs that are checking passwords when users sign, when we add a password to the site. So it's just a extra security check from Django. We're going to leave them as is for now. Next thing we come to is internationalization. This has to do with your time zone, your language code, your location, everything like that. We're going to leave this as is. If you guys want to go ahead and change it or need to change it, go ahead and check it out right here. The documentation's great. You guys can set that up. If you have any questions, let me know. All right. Next thing we're going to move on to is our static files. This is pretty important because if you get this wrong, then your static files might not work properly. So let's make sure we get this right. First things first, we got our static URL, and this is going to be the home of where we put our static files. All right. Next one we're going to have is our static root. So we'll have all caps static underscore root is equal to, and we'll do os.path.join, and we'll do base dir, comma, and we'll say static files. So when basically when we upload our site to Heroku runs collect static. It's a command through Django, and it goes and collects all the static files, and it's going to put them into a static files directory right here. So we could name this anything we wanted to. I tend to name it static files. Basically, like I said, it's all the static files are put into this so it's easier for Django to find them. All right. So it'll collect it from everywhere, from all our applications that are listed in here. It will collect them from all in there and put them all into one location. All right. We'll take a look at that when that actually happens. Next thing we got to do is static file dirs. So we'll do static files underscore dirs equal to os.path. Oh wait, no, this got to be in a list. List os.path.join, and then we'll do base dir, comma, static, and then the last one we're going to do is media underscore root is equal to os.path join base dir, comma, media. All right, so your media would be like your photos, your videos, or whatever you upload. All right. So there we go. All right, next thing and final thing we need to do is set up our project so it can run something locally and run something in production. All right, so locally and production, or development and production. It's getting late. All right, try. It's going to take a try statement. We're going to say from .local underscore settings import all. All right. And then we're going to have an accept clause, and we'll say accept import error, and for now we'll just put pass. All right. So this portion right here is basically saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and import local settings. All right. So if we import a file that we haven't created yet, that's the next tutorial, called local settings, if that's possible to import that file, go ahead and use that file and import it and overwrite whatever's in here. All right. Because that's what it's going to do. It's going to overwrite whatever's in here. So that's how we make two different settings files. We can have one in production, one for development. Local settings is for development, and the overall main settings is for production. And I'll show you what I mean by local, how it will not exist on the server. We'll take a look at that in the next tutorial as well. Now, this tutorial got a little long, and it normally tends to do that when you're talking about settings. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next tutorial where we build our local settings.py file. Till then, have a good day.